What's up, world? This is Salim with Flip for Figs, and welcome to another UCS Showdown. Today, it's a prequel showdown with the UCS Republic Gunship against UCS JANGO FETT Slave 1 or JANGO FETT Starship. I'm going to go over build, display presence, and overall value for the money to see which set comes out on top. Let's do it.
Flip for Figs.
When I flip, you flip, we flip.
Alrighty, so the UCS Gunship was released in 2021 and it was available for 2 years until 2023. And it had 3,292 pieces, as well as 2 minifigures, Mace Windu and an unnamed clone pilot. Now, this set is unique among all Star Wars UCS sets because it was the first and only one so far that was actually voted on by fans. Now, I believe in 2020, LEGO gave fans the option to choose the next UCS set, and there was 3 options: the Nebulon B Frigate, the TIE Bomber, as well as the Gunship. Now, the Gunship prevailed, and personally, I was happy it did. It was the one I wanted the most. I don't think the TIE Bomber got enough screen time, and then, you know, if we have our choice between a Gunship or a Nebulon B Frigate, eventually it'd be cool to have both, but my choice was the Gunship, so I was happy it got selected, especially since there are very few prequel ships, UCS ships from the prequel movies. In terms of the build itself, I remember the build being really fun and satisfying. There's a lot of, snot techniques, especially at this top section here. The wings obviously are going to be redundant because they're nearly identical to one another, but I still think it was fun, especially with kind of adding these clear pod elements to it. And I'm so glad they went with printed elements. I wouldn't put it past LEGO to use stickers on pieces like this, like cockpits, because they've done that in the past. But I'm glad they went with printed elements here. I absolutely enjoyed the build. It reminds me, or the Razor Crest, which I got after, kind of was reminiscent in this, and just because it was a satisfying build, like when it comes together with all the, studs not on top technique. All right, in terms of display presence, I think this thing is really beautiful. I love the colors of it, the reds and the whites and the little hint of green at the front. I think it definitely stands out against a lot of the gray original trilogy ships. It kind of reminds me of the color scheme of the Rebel Blockade Runner, and I really love that as well, or the A-Wing. Now, for some reason, when I had the one from 2002, I don't remember this being open in the middle, and as I look back at pictures now, I guess it always was, but it just seems like such a big open gap, and I know that that's accurate to the film. But because there isn't, any kind of interior, which I don't really think there is in the regular gunships because it's meant to just carry a bunch of clones. But I think that open gaping hole in the middle does kind of take some points away. It looks like it's, these doors should open and close, and they do open, but not in the way you would expect. Instead of going like closer to the cockpits to close that hole, they actually go backwards. And I can't imagine displaying it that way just because it would be even more open than it currently is. And so that's the only thing that hinders the display presence from me. But again, it's technically accurate to the screen. Now you can kind of move these little gunner pods to the middle to kind of fill up that space a little bit. But then you just see more of the Technic arms. But yeah, overall, in terms of display, I think it's a beautiful set and it stands out in the collection. So, the release of this was actually marred by some controversy. Up until now, with the new Death Star that's coming out in October of 2025, I think this was the most controversial UCS set so far. It's mainly focused on the minifigures. Now, personally, I thought it was disappointing that we didn't get clone troopers. I thought we should have got a bunch of clone troopers. I mean, you saw with the UCS AT-AT, we got a bunch of snow troopers and stuff like that. So, I mean, it usually carries a bunch of clone troopers, so I wish we got it. Now, I guess the difference is that the AT-AT is technically minifig scale, whereas this ship is not minifig scale. Here, the cockpits do appear to be minifig scale, even if the rest of the ship isn't. So I think we should have at least gotten 2 clone troopers or some more clone pilots, or maybe one of each just to put in that cockpit. With that said, a lot of people were disappointed that they didn't include Clone Commander Cody. And I think when you voted for the UCS set, you did have the option to vote for minifigures as well. And I think a lot of people voted for Commander Cody as well as Jedi Bob, which is kind of just like a spoof thing. I don't know that there really is a Jedi Bob. I don't fully understand the lore there. But long story short, it came with Mace Windu and an unnamed clone pilot. And so people were annoyed with that, or a few people were annoyed with that. And then the designer kind of made it worse, because the designer said, oh, well, we thought about including that figure, but we didn't want to make such a sought-after figure available only in an expensive set. That to me was kind of silly, because they do that all the time before, and they continue to do it now. And personally, I think there's something to be said about an Ultimate Collector set including exclusive minifigures, right? It's the Ultimate Collector series. It should include some exclusive minifigures. Now, they could have given us a special version of Commander Cody with arm printing or dual molded legs, and given us another Cody in other sets that was a little bit different, but at least have the special one be in this set. So anyways, that long-winded way of saying that this was technically the most controversial set before the new Death Star that's coming in October. But anyways, yes, it was released, and at the time it was launched at $349, and I think after LEGO had their price increases, it went up to $399. Now, at $349, I think that was a good price, because this thing is heavy and it includes a lot of large wedge pieces for the wings, and these are obviously specialized printed elements, so those are expensive, and also these spherical shapes where the gunners sit are also unique printed pieces. There were a handful of stickers, but there was a lot of cool printed elements as well. So in terms of value for the money, I think that it was definitely there. Not as much at the $399 price point. I mean, we're seeing that now with the new LEGO Hogsmeade, which is 3,200 pieces. Granted, it has a lot of minifigures. Well, only 12, not that many, and it's going for $399. To me, this feels more like a $300 to $350 set. So in terms of value for the money, I think that the fact that it was voted on by fans makes it special. The fact that it's only one of 4 UCS prequel set, well, 5 if you're including Darth Maul bust. But for me, the value for the money is there, especially at the original price point. And I feel like this one will continue to go up in price, because maybe it wasn't as popular as other UCS sets. One, because, you know, not everyone, prequel stuff doesn't appeal to the entire Star Wars community. And 2, because again, I think some people maybe didn't buy it, or maybe it was because of that controversy. I don't know whether that controversy, you know, affected sales. I have heard in some places that it was one of the weaker UCS launches. I don't know if that's true or not. But yeah, in terms of value for the money, I think it's definitely there. You know, at the original price point, at the newer price point of $399, which is what it retired at, I don't know. Alrighty, folks, JANGO FETT Slave 1, or JANGO FETT Starship, which is set number 75409, was actually just launched in May of 2025 of this year for $299 US, and it had 2,970 pieces and 2 minifigures, JANGO FETT as well as Boba Fett. Now, of the figures, the Boba Fett does appear in another set, but JANGO FETT is unique to this set. Alright, now the build for this was actually really enjoyable, but mine was marred by the fact that I got 2 number 6 bags and no number 9 bag. I actually continued the build because number 9 bag actually just does like one portion of this mandible here. So fortunately, I was able to complete the rest of the build except that part, which was really cool, and I was able to display it, so I was able to continue the build. You know, it wasn't like it was part of the internal structure or a part where you just, you know, more stuff is going on top of it, so you couldn't, you know, continue the build. I got super lucky that I was able to continue the build even though I was missing that number 9 bag. But yeah, that was my build experience with the ship. It again has a lot of great studs not on top techniques. And, you know, the colors are fantastic, a lot of unique elements in unique pieces. And so Aside from my specific situation with the build, which ended up having a positive outcome, I think it's a great, fun build. It comes together quickly, even though it's almost 3,000 pieces, and there's a lot to like about the build process. Alrighty, now in terms of display presence, you can't deny that this thing is eye-popping. I think, and I say this a lot with any UCS sets that have color in it, but a lot of it's gray and white in the UCS collection, but this is, that those blue and teal colors are just so vivid and so eye-catching, and I love having it in the collection. I have mine displayed next to the gunship, so they both kind of add some nice, much-needed color compared to the other, gray behemoths behind me. So I think in terms of display presence, I love it. I do wish there was a way to elevate it when it's in its horizontal position, because there is a lot to like about it when it's laying horizontally instead of upright, but it's just too low to the ground and you obviously don't have a display stand for it. So I think it would have been cool if somehow the display stand or, part of it could have, leveled out and you can have it kind of elevated on display, because I might even consider it displaying it that way, since I have the slave, Boba Fett Slave 1 displayed upright. But either way, it's got nice height to it. It's got nice weight to it. The curvature is fantastic. I think it's got great display presence, and I really enjoy having it in the collection. In terms of the price, unfortunately, 2,900 pieces now for $300 is not unusual. Now, in some cases, we're paying almost $400 for 2,900 pieces. I mean, we see that with the new Black Pearl or Jack Sparrow's ship that's coming out this year with 2,900 pieces, same amount as this set, and it's $80 more at $380. Now, granted, it includes some larger ship hulls and sails, but do those pieces really make up $80 worth? And I guess the minifigures too. So, I don't know. Say what you will about Lego pricing. We can debate it till the cows come home. I think for this ship in general, it definitely feels more like a $250 or maybe $260 set. When I think of $300 sets, I just think, bigger. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. And this set, mainly because it takes up a smaller footprint, I kind of put it in line with the original Slave 1, which was $200, or the TIE Fighter, which was $200. Or even the TIE Interceptor, which is $229. To me, it just doesn't feel like a $300 set, even though the pieces are there. And speaking of the pieces, I mean, it's almost the same exact size, if not the same exact size, as the, Boba Fett's ship. And where are those extra 1,000 pieces? I'm not really sure. But I feel like if Lego wanted to, they could have kept the piece count down to keep the price more affordable. Especially since your only other options for UCS sets this year are the AT-ST, which was $200, or the new Death Star, which is $1,000. So, all of it is getting super expensive. Alrighty, folks. Well, this wouldn't be a showdown unless there was a winner, right? So we talked about, release history. We talked about display presence. We talked about value for the money. And, there can only be one winner. And for me personally, it's got to be the UCS Gunship. Now, I say that for many reasons. Number one, as much as I love JANGO FETT Starship or JANGO FETT Slave 1, I already have a UCS Slave 1, and it's almost identical with just a different color scheme. I have Boba Fett Slave 1, and so if I didn't have this in my collection, I would still have this iconic ship represented. With the gunship, this is definitely a unique set for many reasons. Number one, I don't think we'll ever get another UCS gunship. And I say that because Lego had fans vote on it, because that means that they weren't like, oh yeah, we're absolutely making this. They wanted to give fans the choice to select it. And to me, that says that maybe they weren't, I could be wrong, maybe they just wanted to try something new. But I think if they were uber, confident that this set was going to be gangbusters, they would have made it without asking for anyone's input. The fact that they had this up against two other original trilogy ships that are more niche, the TIE Bomber and the Nebulon B Frigate, are definitely more niche vehicles that didn't get a lot of screen time, definitely not as prominent as, the gunships, which were in the Clone Wars and Attack of the Clones and stuff. And despite that, they still made fans vote on it. And I think they wanted to know, like, hey, if we're going to make this, we want to make sure that people asked for it. And so I don't think we'll ever get another one. I mean, I could be wrong. Who knows what happens 20 years down the road from now, but I personally don't think we'll ever get another UCS gunship. So between the sheer size and display presence of it, the color scheme, the fact that I always loved the gunship ever since I got the system scale one in 2002, and considering the fact that I already have another UCS Slave 1, albeit in a different color scheme, I would, if I could only keep one of these two, it would have to be the gunship. Now, you may disagree. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, but I just feel like, you know, I don't know how well this sold. I mean, it was available for 2 years, not just 1 year like the UCS Y-Wing, so maybe that's a good sign. I mean, it looks like almost 10,000 people on Brickset have it, so, you know, I think it sold pretty well. I think the fact that the minifigures aren't stellar will keep the price on the aftermarket decent, but there is a lot of unique printed elements, so I think that'll help it retain its value. But yeah, I love it. I love having it in the collection. I love the, you know, the contrast against all of the gray ships. The color scheme kind of reminds me, like I said, of the Rebel Blockade Runner, so I like that. But yeah, overall, if I could only pick one, it would have to be the gunship. Now, folks, if you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to continue to do UCS Showdowns every week until we get the new Death Star, which comes out in October. And so, yeah, I hope to see you next time.
When I flip, you flip, we flip.